Good afternoon and welcome to those of you who are in the church this afternoon and those who will be looking in on the YouTube channel. Each Wednesday we have a reflection at 1 o'clock, and my name is Lorna, and today I will be talking about our Queen. On Sunday I attended a Queen's Platinum Jubilee party. The food was brilliant, the entertainment was fun, and it was so very English, seated in a marquee at the village hall, when at the end we all stood and lustily sang the national anthem. It was clear that our Queen is very much loved and appreciated by her loyal subjects after 70 years on the throne. Princess Elizabeth was in Kenya when the news of her father's death reached her on the 6th of February 1952, and that day she succeeded to the throne. She was crowned Queen on the 2nd of June 1953, and when she came to the throne, she made an oath, a promise to all her subjects. "I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and the service of our great family to which we all belong." In her reign, the new Elizabethan reign of Queen Elizabeth II, there have been so many changes in our country and in the world. And here is a whistle-stop tour of many of her 70 years on the throne. Just before Elizabeth was crowned Queen, James Watson and Francis Crick, helped by the crucial contribution of Rosalind Franklin, discovered the structure of DNA. So many amazing scientific advances have been made because of the understanding of DNA. 1956, and people are recognizing the environmental damage of pollution to our planet, and the Clean Air Act was established in the UK and the first nuclear power station built. There were many crises, such as the Suez crisis in 1956, when Britain and France together invaded Egypt and retreated after American pressure. The Queen's Commonwealth began to change in nature and in size, and in 1957, Ghana became the first country to gain independence. The 1950s was an eventful decade, and the arrival of the first motorways heralded change to all our lives as longer distance travel became easier for us all. Swinging into the 60s, the 1960s, and some immense changes to society itself, a new freedom of expression arrived, especially for the young. Resale price maintenance was abolished, and this marked the end of the wonderful independent small shopkeepers we had all known. Instead, huge supermarkets appeared. In 1966, England won the World Football Cup, and the sweet victory is remembered with affection by so many of us. By 1967, the Beatles had taken the world by storm, and modern music would never be quite the same again. Society was changing so much and so fast. Homosexuality was legalized, and there was the Divorce Reform Act and the Equal Pay Act. Suddenly, life seemed as if it might become fairer. And so we hoped. In 1969, a man landed and walked on the moon, and they carried with them a message from our Queen. Sadly, it was in the 1960s that the Northern Ireland troubles began and cost the lives of many people, including the Queen's own uncle. In the 1970s, we lost our pounds, shillings and pence and became decimalised. Now fewer and fewer of us remember what a half-crown was. The Queen will remember, of course. We also joined the European Economic Community, although not forever. There was a lot of industrial unrest in our country and the shortage of commodities all around the world. But in 1977, we enthusiastically celebrated the Queen's Silver Jubilee. The Falklands War took place in 1982, a sad period for our country. And it was in this decade that easy global communication arrived, and we were all aware of the Ethiopian famine and hunger crisis. That was one of the worst humanitarian events of the 20th century, and it prompted a global response to bring food assistance and to save lives. In 1989, Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web. And how incredibly things have changed since then. In the 1990s, Europe became a bit closer when the Channel Tunnel opened, and a great step forward was made when women priests were ordained in the Church of England. But it was not a good decade for the Queen, and the saddest event for many in England was the death of Princess Diana in Paris in 1997. We arrive at the millennium in 2000. The Queen opened the Millennium Dome, and two British women, Catherine Hartley and Fiona Thornwell, became the first women ever to reach the South Pole. Sadly, it was in this new century that we all witnessed the terrorist attacks of 9/11 in New York, and Britain joined the United States in its war on Iraq. There was finally a recognition throughout the world that climate change really was happening, and in 2010 we see the highest temperature in October in England ever recorded. But we do also have the remarkable London Olympics in 2012, which cheered everyone, or almost everyone. The Queen appeared parachuting down into the arena with James Bond to open the event. Well, at least it looked like her. Things are moving so fast now. By 2018, there are more people sleeping on the streets of England than ever before. The world seems even more chaotic, and the whole world, thanks to the rise of social media, seems a smaller place altogether. Then in 2019-20, we have the pandemic, and everything closes down. The Queen stays in Windsor Castle, and because she is so much older, her subjects are glad that she is safe. The pandemic years float by in a strange and awful manner, and we find ourselves here in 2022, and it is the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, 70 years on the throne. And what about the changes for the Queen herself and her family during her reign? She wasn't supposed to have become Queen at all. She was the daughter of King George V's second son, and it was unlikely that she would ever be the Queen. Then Edward VIII abdicated, and when her father died, Elizabeth acceded to the throne. When she was crowned Queen, 27 million people in the United Kingdom watched on TV, and 11 million more listened to the radio. It was an incredible event. I remember it myself, excitedly watching it on our tiny TV in the sitting room. And I remember especially trying to work out how to eat the jelly at the big long table at the street parties for the coronation. After 25 years on the throne, on June the 7th, 1977, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip rode in the gold state coach to St. Paul's to celebrate her Silver Jubilee, and she repeated the oath she made at the beginning. I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and the service of our great family to which we all belong. And added, although that vow was made in my salad days when I was green in judgment, I do not regret nor retract one word of it. As society changed, modernised, and became more fluid in its outlook, the royal family became more exposed to the public and to the media. Like all families, there were disruptions for the Queen. It was all played out in the public arena. In 1992, the Queen had her horrible year when two of her sons, Prince Charles and Prince Andrew, separated from their wives, and her daughter Anne was divorced from her husband. Later in the year, a fire broke out in Windsor Castle and destroyed more than 100 rooms. Queen Elizabeth said in her speech to the nation that year that it had turned out to be an annus horribilis, Latin for horrible year. The 1990s became more painful when Diana, the people's princess, died. And then in the year of her golden jubilee, both her sister, Princess Margaret, and her mother, the Queen Mother, died within weeks of one another. But Elizabeth was Queen. And to celebrate her golden jubilee, she travelled more than 40,000 miles in the year, both internationally and in the United Kingdom, visiting 70 cities and towns around the country. Elizabeth's second half-century as Queen coincided with the beginning of more positive relations between Britain and its royal family. But last year, there was the sadness when Prince Philip, her husband of 73 years, died. It was during the COVID pandemic, and our Queen sat alone in the chapel at Windsor for his funeral. It seemed such a symbol of the difficulties, loneliness, and isolation that so many bereaved people had suffered during the pandemic. She is and has been an amazing Queen, but she is also just like the rest of us, and life can be good or very tough. But she is a Queen, and she has kept her oath throughout it all, through all the changes in her long reign, through all the joys and the pains of life publicly lived. She has the most incredible resilience and commitment to us all. She has kept her oath. Not only is she our Queen, she is a shining example of faithful and resilient service to others. And we thank God for her. Long live our Queen. Thank you.